Good evening, cult members. Welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our review of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yep.
Now, spoilers, they end with Live Aid. If you know anything about Queen, they were always going to end the movie with Live Aid.
Right. And they play like they're
almost the whole set.
thing. Yeah.
Almost the whole set. Yeah. We're going to start off. I want to get one thing out of the way, and then we could talk about all the positiveness the rest of the way.
Okay.
The one thing that people are going to talk about a lot in this movie is the teeth. So we want to get that out of the way. If you've seen pictures of Freddie and you've seen pictures with Rami Malek with the teeth, they look a lot alike.
Yes.
Look a lot alike.
Yes.
However, when Rami goes to speak, the teeth become very obvious for the first 5 minutes.
Yes.
And then you get used to it.
Get used to it.
And then you just go on.
Yeah.
And then it's not a big deal the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
So anybody who's going to get on the internet in the next few days and say, "Oh my God, the movie's ruined because of the teeth," are lying to you, because this movie is fucking amazing.
Right. Yes.
And that's our review. If you have any questions, comments, please go ahead. So you can start.
Me?
Yeah. Okay. I talked about the teeth, so.
And Robbie Malek is too short.
Robbie Malek is a little short.
Freddie was tall.
Freddie was tall and thin, and Rami is thin, but
thin.
not nearly as tall. And
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you're never gonna find another Freddie Mercury. You got the closest facsimile of Freddie with Rami Malek.
Yeah.
And his performance has to be in the conversation for Little Gold Men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has to be.
He acted his butt off. And I would like to point out just real quick that was going to be Sacha Baron Cohen.
Right. Right. Who I think also could have pulled it off.
I don't know. I just can't see him doing. This is we talked about it. There's some laughs. You do laugh in this movie, but it's way more serious than Sacha Baron Cohen has ever been.
And he's done some serious stuff.
Has he?
And
Not
he's
that I've
done
ever
some
seen.
singing stuff. He's in Les Mis. He's one of the main characters in Les
Is he?
Mis. Yeah.
Okay.
So he's done this. He's done that serious kind of and singing based thing. But Robbie nails everything. The performance. He's got the mannerisms. He's got the tempo in which Freddie talks and interacts with everybody, and the costuming. Like, even, there's a couple times where there's shots like from a distance, and he's got the sunglasses on, or it's just his face and the mustache and stuff like that. Like, you're like, oh my God, that's Freddie Mercury.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially the Live Aid one, because the mustache and the armband and the whole outfit, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, definitely.
Well, I want to talk about the other members of the band. Brian May, Roger Taylor, John Deakins. The three guys who played the three of them. Gillum Lee played Brian May. I'm pretty sure he's just a clone of Brian May.
Yeah, he looked just like him.
It looks just like him. And Ben Hardy played Roger Taylor, and Joseph Mazzello
yeah, sure.
Played John Deacon, and all of them together handled, because Queen is made up of four very different people who very much love each other. The four actors did a really good job of portraying that each individual type of person that they were. And it was able to bring that part out. Now, is it maybe a little over dramatic at times because that's how movies are? Maybe. But you get the idea of, you get the quiet one, you've got the leader, and you've got we can only have one queen in this band. So you have that kind of dynamic, and all of the actors were able to portray each of their characters so well.
Yeah.
The story itself, we talked about it real quick on the way home. The beginning seemed a little fast to me. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It was the pretty much there was a rush to get Freddie in the band.
Yes, I mean it pretty much starts right there.
Right there, and that's you at least get an idea of how Freddie kind of got into the band and who he was as a person before he was Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
And what his family life was like. But then once they got into it and they actually really sunk their teeth in to being a college band, traveling the road in a van.
Yeah.
And risking
a
pub band, yeah, and risking everything and becoming this huge worldwide thing.
Yeah.
And then all the stuff that happened with Freddie going and doing a singles album, and then his illness, and they dealt with his gay stuff really well.
Yeah.
I just felt that they handled the story part so well.
Yeah, and it's so what you expect from that type of movie, right? Like
a biopic.
Well, no, just the band movie. Like many of them, the lead singer or the kind of leader of the band is always like push, and everybody else is like, no, let's do this, and there's like kind of that dynamic, and there wasn't any of that in this movie, which I'm assuming is how they were, since the remaining members were so directly involved in the movie. In it, yeah. Like Freddie would say, I want opera, and Brian May's like, yeah, opera.
Sure.
Let's do that.
It makes complete sense. They did a good job of explaining like why they all were the way they were too. But what really for the story is about Freddie, and I was really hesitant about how they were going to deal with his homosexuality, his illness, his contraction of the illness, and all of that stuff. It'd be really easy to Hollywood it,
or to go into it like, I mean, there was no, this is when he got it, or this was, it happened, and and nothing was like super overt, or
right.
there were guys, and they were his lover, I guess, right? There was no like, there was a couple of scenes where he kissed another guy, but there was parties where there were people laying around afterwards, but there was no,
there wasn't like a blatant sex scene or
and there was no like, this person is who gave it to him.
It was much more, it was tastefully handled, which is what we had been told all along. The reason that the movie actually got made is because the band members said yes to, but they wanted to be directly involved in it. And they wanted to make sure that Freddie was put in a realistic light. And not a, rainbows and unicorns, kind of version.
Although he called everybody darling.
Darling, he did do that.
Dear, darling.
And then the only other thing that I really want to talk about was the music. Now, we kind of joked because the trailer before the movie was for Rocket Man, which is coming out in May for Elton John. And I lean over and I says, we're definitely doing a big gay sing-along for that one. We're walking out of the theater, still singing the credits is rolling,
song.
And we're still singing the credits song. And she leans over.
Must go on.
She leans over and she goes, we're totally doing a big gay sing-along to this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. They actually, because the band was involved, they had all the rights to all the music, which is really, really important.
Right.
But the way they presented the music and the way they did a lot more showing them in the process of making the music than I really thought that they were going to do. It would have been really easy to show a couple of performances on stage, and they did do that. But they showed a lot more of how they worked out Bohemian Rhapsody and how they worked out We Will Rock You and all, like that stuff like that. And then they capped it with the Live Aid set. Now,
well, and that makes sense because Queen was very different. I mean, they had some songs that were like, what was the one that Ray kept trying to push over Bohemian Rhapsody?
I love my car.
No, the other one. He was like,
oh,
I love my car was
the other one.
B-side.
The B-side.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, what was it?
Like,
we're just friends.
I will love you.
Or we're friends forever. Or
no,
something. Yeah, something I can't remember.
Anyway, and that was a big radio hit. I mean, and it was very radio friendly. And I remember when, like, Bohemian Rhapsody came on the radio, and you're like, shh, everybody, shh, because it never came on because it was 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was big. And then after that, it was like we always do. It was A side, B side of a 45. They would put them together like Fat Bottom Girls and Bicycles.
Yeah.
And, so they started.
They had a nice little homage to that, by the way.
Yeah.
There was a big party going on, and Freddie's like, I want to have a big party with midgets and African lords and priests and like whatever. This was his full-on diva stage, and he's walking through the house, and there's girls on stationary bikes riding, and he walks over and smacks one of them on the ass, and I just started giggling because I'm like, that's a complete homage. They're gonna have that song, but the Live Aid set is, I don't know how. I would love to know how they did that because it's verbatim.
Well,
for the most part, they don't show the whole thing, but
he lip syncs, right? We know that.
Right.
The remaining band members wouldn't let anybody sing. It had to be Freddie, so they had to lip sync. And then the audience, so you can kind of tell when they're on stage and they're showing them looking out that's the real audience, because you're not going to get, I don't even know how many people fit into Wembley Stadium, but it's a lot. You're never, unless you CG it or whatever, you're never going to get that many people. The up close of the crowd is probably real live.
I know that the shots
that
they did like over the stadium and down, there's a couple of those that are obviously CGI, but the performance is step for step. The angles, they did a couple cool camera angles. They go underneath the piano. They show Freddie singing, and they go underneath the piano through the legs up to Brian May.
Well, and they have they've got the recording. They've got the video of the set. So, although we only got to see part of it here, I remember that I was pissed because we only got to see like the first song or two songs or whatever, and then they cut over to New York because it was back and forth between New York and I was pissed. But they've still got it. So
the full set is on YouTube.
Yeah,
you can go watch it on YouTube.
They can study it. Now the stuff where they're going under the piano, that didn't really happen. But
it was just amazing that they did 4 of the songs from the Live Aid set, which is almost
it was only
the whole
20
thing.
minutes, so it couldn't have been too much longer.
Yeah.
The movie is long.
It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, I think is what it said. I have IMDb up,
it was
so
like 9:30 when we got out, and there was, however many millions.
2 hours and 14 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's pretty on par.
But you don't feel it. No. Until the Live Aid thing, and then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we've been sitting here for a little bit, but up until then, you're so wrapped up in the movie.
I wanted to lean over and go, I hope they do the whole Live Aid set.
Yeah.
Just do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Have it be the last 20 minutes of the movie. And they do a nice little homage at the end and
talk about kind of what happened after that.
It was just overall a really well put together movie. I'm very upset that Bryan Singer is getting the credit for it, but he did most of the work as the director. And he left early. There's all the problems with him, whatever.
Oh yeah.
And there's issues with him and all that stuff. But he did 80% of the work as the director in this movie, so he should get the credit. But I'm glad that they continued on and actually put this together and finished it, put it out there.
So you are upset that
I'm upset that he gets the credit for it, but I understand why.
Okay.
I don't want if you're gonna be a douchebag, I don't want you to be a douchebag. I'm really glad that they actually did this and they actually let it continue on. They finished it. They put it together.
Yeah, I think they did a good job, considering everything that happened with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, we both really liked it. Score, I know.
4.25.
That's exactly where I'm at. 4.25. It's gonna we've seen some really, really good movies.
I know.
Now.
I was thinking about it right before I came in here, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to narrow it down to 10 let alone 5.
Yeah. And there's some couple movies that we saw this year that aren't going to be big hits everywhere else, and that's going to be on our list. So that's our thoughts on Bohemian Rhapsody. Probably a little longer than we expected, but it's worth the talk.
Yeah.
And I will always be thumbs up for that. What do you guys think of the movie? Let us know. Leave us a comment. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. We're at 400 subscribers. Woo-hoo. We are pushing on to 500. So please subscribe to the channel and get a hold of us on our social media network. We're on Facebook at PopCultureCult, PopCultureCult1 on Instagram, Pop_Cult1 on Twitter. It's all in the description. And until next time, good night now.